All right, guys, our next guest on the podcast today is country star and also friend, James Robert Webb. And first off, James, always great to visit with you, my friend.
Hey, Cameron, it's good to be talking to you again. We're both Okies, so we got that going for us.
Yeah, and this year, I think this is like the first year in a while that we haven't had the opportunity. We're on opposite ends of the state, so we actually haven't been able to travel in between much.
That's right. Oklahoma is not as big as Texas if people aren't from this area, but it is about 8 hours between us, Tulsa and Altus.
It's
6 hours.
5 or 6, I think.
5 or 6. See, all right, I got you. It seems like maybe it seems like 8 because I can't wait to get there.
That's right.
Impatient when I
That's
drive,
right. Now, James, through the whole pandemic, all that's going on, obviously it's had an effect not only on you professionally, but also personally in your regular line of work. And putting a new single out just recently, how has this differed from the singles that have been released in the past?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, the album just came out, James Robert Webb album just came out May 1st. Mm-hmm. And so it has been interesting doing this in COVID. We had delayed it because of COVID, and we decided, well, we just need to go ahead and get it out because we'd already had a couple of singles that had done well. And so this whole COVID situation has been really interesting because we have, lots of new music that we're not able to get out and play in front of people. And I've been kind of lucky, I think, on the last 2 singles have kind of almost taken it on a different meaning in the pandemic. Because Think About It was really a song about, it was my first top 40 as a writer and artist on Billboard country. And it's really a song that we wrote kind of just about reconnecting with the natural world and, like putting down the electronics, which is so freaky, that we released it kind of in a pandemic time because everybody's, that's about some of the only COVID approved activities are
That's right.
going out and being in nature. And the new single, Good Time Waiting to Happen, I really feel like everybody, artists, entertainers, fans, everybody's just waiting for us to be able to go out and have a good time again. You're waiting for those concerts that have been pushed off. So it's kind of like Good Time Waiting to Happen also has a different meaning through the lens of COVID in 2020.
And you talk about getting when things open back up. How hard is it doing a Facebook Live? I've never had to do that, but what's it like playing to an audience that may or may not respond via message while you're playing?
That's right. I mean, it's difficult, but I think it makes you a better performer because it's a lot easier in a sold out room or even a small room with just a few people to have that interaction. And there's, something you can see the looks in people's eyes and you can see them singing along or you can see them tearing up and not getting that feedback on live is a little bit different, but it's also good because some of my Webbers can kind of watch me anyway, right? I don't have to be in their town for them to see me. So that part I've enjoyed the most.
And how have you been reactive through this whole COVID-19 situation? I'm just gonna say for myself, at first I kind of laughed it off, but then I went in full lockdown mode and was completely protective about everything, maybe a little bit overboard. But I think I've slacked a little bit now. But what about yourself? How has it been for you?
Well, I early on, I think it's always prudent to use caution because we don't know what's going on, really with something that's new. And there's always the potential. We haven't had one yet, but you never know when we're going to have some kind of engineered virus that has other effects or, that we can't explain. So we pretty much went in lockdown for the most part because my mother was really ill. And then my daughters both have heart conditions and things. So mainly for that, and then plus the patients I work with tend to be older patients that are higher risk. So I've pretty much stayed in lockdown because of that, just for them. But as it's gone on, we've seen, the death rates are not very high. I mean, we have a lot of people that have died, which is too many, over 200,000. But, we see that we're not even close to the number of people that die every year from heart attacks. for example. But it's a national emergency. I think our response was kind of crazy. It's a big experiment to quarantine all the healthy people, and there's been a lot of doctors and scientists that have come out against that, and they're just being ignored by the media, unfortunately. So I'm not too concerned. I mean, you never know. You might be in that 1.3% or whatever that die that get it, but my recommendation to everybody is to, always practice good hygiene and try to stay away from, people that are coughing and especially if you're higher risk, isolate. I mean, you should probably do that a lot of times anyway.
And James, has this year bred into you some inspiration? Has it inspired you in your writing? Yes.
I mean, I think this year in 2020 has been a crazy year, right? And I've written both more and with a greater number of other artists and writers this year in a larger variety, in different genres. And so you can't help but for the times to kind of feed into the songs. But yeah, there's definitely been some interesting creative leaps. And I've also taken this time really just to disappear a little bit and kind of hone my craft more. So for me, that's kind of, reflecting on where I've been in this album and kind of where I want to go on the next project and things like that. And you usually don't have time to kind of sit and think about that.
Yeah, you gotta count those blessings, right?
That's right. I mean, so out of 2020 and kind of sitting back and seeing how things are going, it's, I've had a tremendous response with the Western swing version of Tulsa Time that we did on the album. That was picked up and supported on Willie's Roadhouse on Sirius XM. It's, I think, our top three, our third highest catalog, I think, on a song on Apple Music. And I've started noticing a lot of Western swing outlets, like there's a local NPR station has a swing swing program that started playing in a couple other outlets across the country, which is kind of cool. So I had, in the back of my mind, wanted to do a Western swing just like, like an EP. But that's kind of solidified the idea that I think there's definitely a taste for that kind of music too. Not that I want to do that exclusively, but we're definitely going to have something like that coming out in 2021. And even though we're still, we haven't got to tour this current album, we're already, planning on working on new music with Buddy Cannon. So
that's cool.
Lots of things going on.
And how special was that for you on a personal level to have the opportunity to record Tulsa Time in the first place?
Yeah, recording Tulsa Time with Buddy and the band has been, I think we recorded actually at the end of 2018. And Buddy and I both have a love of Western swing. We kind of talked about that. We both he grew up listening to some albums I think his uncle had. And I grew up in Tulsa and heard it like on KDOO. And Tulsa is the home of the Canes Ballroom where Bob Wills was forever. And so it's just kind of in the blood in Tulsa. So to be able to, we wanted to do a Western swing song. We wanted to do a cover, and we didn't really want to do a one that had been done a million times. And so Buddy came up with the idea one morning. We came to the session, and he handed me the lyric sheet and said, "What do you think about this?" He had a gleam in his eye, and I thought, yes, definitely. I haven't thought of that. Yeah. I love taking songs that are well known and kind of well worn and maybe a little tired, and spinning them 180 degrees with a different production, making them new again. That was so much fun to do that. And plus to be kind of a tribute to my hometown and to the great, Bob Wills tradition.
And as we get toward the end of the year, what is Thanksgiving? What does Christmas look like for you this year?
I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the big question. We're kind of, part of us, I think a lot of us are just waiting until after the election to see what happens. And, I think there's a good chance that after the election happens that all this COVID craziness is going to go away a little bit, regardless of who, probably regardless of who wins. But I think it's been so politicized with all the virtue signaling and everything. It's just so tired of hearing that. So, but if it's, if we're having, a lot more increase in cases and things like that, then everybody's going to want to be doing the responsible thing. I've heard like a third of people are planning on doing a virtual, like a Zoom Thanksgiving or something. Is that what I heard?
That I know a lot of people are, yeah.
I mean, I have three kids at home, and so we, even to ourselves, just the five of us have a pretty good time on holidays. But if we get, it will definitely, we would probably miss seeing Grandma and Grandpa. So, I don't think that the grandparents are going to let that happen. So, I suspect that Christmas will be with the family as usual, although we're probably not going to be out caroling and things like that.
There you go. Now, James, always want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find out about more information about the music. Also, follow you social media wise, and as the tour dates become available, let them know about that as well. Absolutely.
The best way to find me is you can just Google or whichever search engine James Robert Webb, and it's 2 B's, WEBB. JamesRobertWebb.com will have my tour dates, and that's got the store on it. You can get merch and T-shirts and physical copies of the CD. But if you want to just check out the music, try to make it easy. It's all James Robert Webb, whether it's Spotify, Deezer, YouTube, Apple Music, and all the social channels are the same. YouTube is James Robert Webb, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of those. So go and check it out. If you go to the website, JamesRobertWebb.com, there's a link where you can go listen to the album, or it'll take you to your favorite store.
Well, awesome. Well, James, it is always great to visit with you, my friend. I appreciate the time, and I love the ambiance. I love the birds in the background. That's good stuff.
I was going to ask if you heard the hawks. I had I had two red-tailed hawks fly by, and then I saw a peregrine falcon swoop. So I wasn't sure if you heard that. But that's a nice thing, a thing of beauty to be out in nature right now. The world's going on. The world keeps moving despite 2020.
That's right.
Thanks for having me on, Cameron.
Well, James, it's been a privilege, and always good to visit with you. Hopefully we'll catch up again real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Our next guests are Erin and Rachel Bradshaw. They're talking about Bradshaw Bunch. Check it out Thursday evenings on E! The Bradshaw Bunch, Thursday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 local time on E! And this morning, we've got Erin and Rachel from the Bradshaw Bunch on the line with us. And first off, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Now, when the Bradshaw Bunch first was idealized and brought to you, what was your initial reaction, your initial thought? Erin, I'm going to ask you first, and then Rachel, your thoughts as well.
At first when they approached us about it, it's definitely a unique opportunity, to have a production company want to film your life and, think you're interesting and exciting enough to want to come into your world and share it with everybody. And, at first it was a little scary, because you're opening up your whole personal life to the world. But it's been super fun and exciting, definitely something new for me that I've never done before. So, it's been fun to do it. It's been a really cool journey. Hopefully we get to continue to do it for more seasons to come. But, overall it was a great experience, and we had a blast doing it, and hopefully we can, continue it.
And Rachel, for you?
Yeah, whenever we filmed the pilot and everyone was kind of like, oh, we want to get a show. Well, that was just a fun thing we did. Then we get the show. And I was like, oh, whoa, we better buckle up. This is a really big network. And I didn't really know how everyone else was going to take it because we haven't done anything like this before. This is a whole new can of worms. So, and then the cameras rolled, and everybody was so funny and so just not scared of the cameras, which is why the show, I think people love it because it looks great. Everybody's just having fun.
Now, how true to life is that, and how many of the times that you were kind of cringing about were you glad that got cut out in editing, if you will?
Erin? Wait, what parts got cut out?
Maybe the parts that got cut out that you were happy to see were not there.
I can definitely say I had a few moments where when we were done filming, I'm like, I would not be opposed to them maybe trimming that down to about 5 seconds. But, I will say we're a very fun, loud, obviously vibrant, open family. We're very honest. So, that's kind of something that comes with the territory with us with filming. But I can definitely say we did have a few moments where you might have slipped and said something or made a comment. And there's a few episodes I watched that I thought, I'm not real sure, what they're going to choose to put on this episode. And so, yeah, definitely some moments there. But overall, I mean, it's been really, really fun.
And guys, I guess, Rachel, I'll ask you, were you ever worried whenever the idea was approached? Because Terry being the huge name and the popular figure that he is, about tarnishing that with a reality, was that ever a concern?
Are you asking about how this show came about?
Well, I'm just asking if with reality shows, one off word can ruin a reality star. And with Terry having the following that he has, I just wonder if that was ever a concern.
Yeah, Dad, man, he has a mouth on him. So there are a few things, and I'm like, why would you say that? And then our producer, Jason Ehrlich, who we love, we trust him, he would just shake his head. He's like, oh, dear God. I mean, so I know that they have our backs, and so they're not going to put anything in the show that would maybe rub someone the wrong way. But, I think that's a common fear when you're doing reality. You do not in the day, what are they going to edit? What do I look like? That one word, could that be twisted? And so it's a genuine concern.
And as new episodes are upcoming, Erin, I want to ask you what the listeners can look forward to in the coming episodes.
Well, you can definitely look forward to my dad eating a worm. That's definitely coming up on tonight's episode. We have a lot of more fun things coming up. We've got, we share a little insight into my dad's house being haunted, which I will tell everyone listening that his house is haunted. So it's not fabricated. It's, it's very real. It's been going on for years now. It's kind of become a joke with us. And, aside from laughs, you'll see a sentimental side of us as well, a little bit more towards the end that kind of opens up a little bit more into our personal lives and things that, we might have going on or want to achieve in our future. So I'd say, a lot of laughs coming up, a lot of fun things, and then some serious sides to us as well.
And Rachel, in the pandemic that we've been dealing with, obviously so much heaviness, to be able to put a smile on somebody's face, maybe brighten their day a little bit. I mean, I know that's got to be the icing on the cake, right?
When COVID hit, the world was shut down, I was talking to my dad, and he's like, what a weird thing. We filmed this show. We're the only show right now that is going to continue filming, and then we're going to air during a really horrible time. It's going to bring a lot of joy to people. And he's like, I truly believe that we were meant to make the show. And I was like, wow, that's a really good perspective on it, because what a great way to come back to TV when everyone's been deprived of new stuff and come out with just fun, wholesome show that makes people happy. It's a great feeling.
There you go. And again, new episodes Thursdays, 9 Eastern, 8 local time on E! The Bradshaw Bunch. And we've got Erin and Rachel on the line this morning. Guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show, and looking forward to new episodes.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And I hope everyone enjoys tonight's episode and enjoys the rest of season 1. It was a pleasure to be on here with you guys this morning.
Yes, thank you.
All right. You guys have a great rest of your week.
You too.
All right, guys, we've got another very special guest here on the podcast, and comedy writer, comedy legend, I would like to say, Bruce Vilanch. And I know he patting his back over there, I'm sure, right, Bruce?
If I could reach that, I would. But then I would have another career if I could do that.
That's right. Now, Bruce, the pandemic, what kind of effect has that had on the writing, or has it helped your comedy stylings a little bit?
No, it hasn't helped the comedy stylings, because you're creating. You're creating stuff that if you're doing stuff about the pandemic, you don't know what the shelf life is on that. Although I have a feeling that this has been so seismic that it's like writing about World War II. It's not going to go away. There will be telling stories about this for a long time. And in fact, I wrote I wrote a musical on a PPP grant for a theater company in Florida, and hopefully we'll get it up in the spring. But it's about a guy who was sheltering in his parents' attic, and his intimate connection with his imaginary friend Dolly Parton. But it's full of stuff about, I mean, it wouldn't exist were there not a pandemic. Where our hope is that by the time it gets performed, there'll be a certain nostalgia factor. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. I mean, the whole world has become dismantled, so it's truly a cataclysmic event. But I'll say this, I mean, humbly, I will say that writers can continue to, I mean, writing is one of the great things you can do without pants.
That's right.
And everybody's doing everything without pants these days. So it's you can write, you can get paid, and you can conduct a semblance of normal life as long as your Wi-Fi connection holds out. So I've been hunkered down in my Hollywood man cave, reading, writing, streaming, Zooming, and falling in love all over again with porn stars long dead. I suspect there's like a lot of, even in Oklahoma, I think that's happening.
You're right. And Bruce, for you, where did the comedy originate for you? Was it? I'll just let you expound on that.
I looked in the mirror, and I thought, well, that's funny. And I started making faces, and I don't know. I guess it was something in the DNA. It was who knows where it comes from. I know I had very supportive, nurturing parents who recognized that I was happier when I was performing, so they encouraged it. They just had an innate fear that I couldn't make a living at it. So they were always encouraging the writing as what they used to call a fallback. And you'll have a fallback, and they said, you should write for newspapers. They'll never go out of style. I thought, who knew?
That's for sure.
But so I was lucky in that regard. And my mother was starstruck and stage struck, and she, it wasn't like Mama Rose. I mean, I wasn't having the career she wanted to have, but she loved the idea that I was in show business, even as a kid. I mean, they didn't push me into it. I liked doing it, and they had me. I acted as a kid. I was a child actor. I was never a child star, or we'd be having this conversation in rehab. I was a child actor, but only because I enjoyed it. They weren't making a living off of it, and they were putting it all away for college. And so it was. It was a great thing. And my mother's side of the family was very theatrical. I had an uncle. A great uncle who was a Catskills comic. He wasn't a successful Catskills comic, but he was a Catskills comic. And they were all characters. They were each and every one of them a character. And I intend on writing about them someday before it all goes away. But I didn't use them the way David Sedaris has taken his family and made an empire out of it. And I think I'm kind of a schmuck for not doing that. But I had other things I was doing, so. There you go, and he's brilliant. So
now, what is your favorite type of writing? Is it the shows, the scripts? Where do you get the most enjoyment from sharing your thoughts on paper?
Well, I suppose I get the most enjoyment you get is the visceral enjoyment is when you write something that gets performed, and. In my life, it has mostly been stuff I've written for other people to perform in their shows as themselves or as characters they've created. Or I get to see stuff done on television right away, as opposed to playwrights or screenwriters who create in a vacuum and then watch eventually as the thing happens. So it's almost as good as the rush you get when you're performing and people are reacting. So I guess it's that kind of writing, but it's all. I mean, there's another whole pleasure that you get when you're in what I call the alpha state, when you're writing something, if it's fiction, where the characters sort of take you over, and it's. like even a fat guy like me forgets to eat because you're so wound up in what you're writing that you kind of shut the world out. And that's a similar thing that happens to performers before they go on, where they have to just focus down. I love all these stories about stars where they say, well, we were told not to look them in the eye. And that's basically because you're working and they're working, and their work involves summoning up all the stuff that they have to do to project whatever it is in front of the camera or on stage. And you're interrupting that if you're busy trying to make a connection with them. So save that for after.
Now, do you find yourself, whenever you're deep in a writing process, I mean, how long is it kind of like running where you get to a place where you're just like, I don't think I can stop this pleasurably?
Yeah. You want to, it's you're just having such a good time. But that's why we have unions. And they say, well, you can keep doing this, but you're going in the golden time. Which is time and a half, or even worse. I mean, it may be double time. Depends on the union.
And how has demand for writers changed as a result of 2020?
The demand? Well, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stuff is being developed because it's something that can happen. Because you can sit there with no pants and do it, as opposed to acting, getting up on a set and facing somebody without a mask. That's more complicated. The writing is what it always was. The difference is when you do any kind of group work, which is what happens a lot in television comedy, and in movie comedy too, for that matter. Everybody gets into a room and rewrites something together. That happens on Zoom. It's not as much fun on Zoom, but again, you don't have to wear pants.
That is right.
So you make your own fun.
Now, when you're dealing with that, how does the feeling in a writing session change whenever you are remote? I mean, obviously, you don't have the feeling of being in the room, but
there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel the same energy. I mean, when you're in a collaboration with somebody and you're physically there, there are many more physical cues you're giving to each other. Plus, you really are working as a kind of an audience at the same time, and there's no delay. On Zoom, there's always that little delay, which kills the joke. It's hard a lot of time, to do stuff exactly right. But I mean, it's not so bad in the writing sessions. It's when you perform stuff on Zoom that you don't. Everything is very flat. You don't get any kind of real reaction. So I've stopped watching those things, Zoom play readings and stuff. I've done a couple because we had to as part of the deal, but generally, if you have an audience that's watching you on Zoom, right, and if you don't want to hear sirens going in the background or babies crying or people farting, you ask them to mute their microphone. But then you don't hear the laughs.
That's right.
So, I mean, you're trading off something, a fabulous joke getting stepped on by somebody's cat suddenly deciding to meow, or you play it into a void because you see them laughing, but you can't hear them. And there is a difference.
And I know I've talked to several stand-up comics that have thought and a couple that have actually attempted the Facebook Lives, and I can't imagine how painful that must be to deliver the joke and not be able to hear the laughter back, kind of like you were talking about.
It's crazy. It's like it's permanent crickets. Yeah, I mean, as I say, you can look at the screen, you can see them. They could be holding their sides, and that's nice. But it's not the same as being in the room with them.
So
listen. When you work on movies, it's similar because it's the crew. The crew are the only ones who are there to laugh, and so it's hang on. I'm sorry, I was interrupted by. See, this is what it's like. Somebody delivering something, and it's crazy. Anyway.
Being a spokesperson and also being out there, I know it's been for the LGBTQ community, and I know with the virtual Pride Parade that went on earlier this year and being involved in that, do you think acceptance is better now than when you came in? And I guess that's my biggest question.
Came out.
Since you came into the business and came out, that's what I was saying.
Of course, acceptance is. I mean, we're married now. I mean, we were a part of the mainstream of American society, unless, of course, the new Supreme Court decides to relook at it. But it's settled law, but also it's settled life. I mean, people are no longer living on the fringe. They're no longer outlaws, and they're part of the world. But that doesn't mean that there's total acceptance, I mean, it's the same. Black people have the same situation. They're part of everything legally, too, but it doesn't mean they're totally accepted by white people. So it's the same thing with gay people. It's we have what we were trying to get legally, and our civil rights doesn't mean that every straight person accepts us. But what are you going to do? I'm also Jewish, and a lot of people hate us. So you grow up when Jewish and you say, a lot of people hate us, a lot of people are going to hurt us, we have to take care of ourselves. And that's the same thing with gay people. It's a good mantra. You must take care of yourself. And what can I tell you? The other Jewish mantra is, they tried to kill us, they lost, let's eat.
That's right.
Every Jewish holiday can be described in those three lines.
And Bruce, speaking of the holidays, I mean, how much different are the holidays going to look this year? I mean, Black Friday may actually be survivable this year around, right?
I think they've moved Black Friday up, actually. Well, Amazon may have destroyed Black Friday with Prime, whatever the Prime Day.
Prime Day, right?
The 13th and 14th. I'm not giving Jeff Bezos a plug, but I have to say, they're the 13th and the 14th. If you can get onto their website, that will be like the Black Friday of the internet. Although, Black Friday on the internet's been big too, and so big that there's Cyber Monday, which is the Monday after Thanksgiving, where people return things or people order stuff that's suddenly on sale, or they realize Christmas is coming. I don't think it will. I mean, obviously, there will be a physical difference. It's hard to tell because I live in L.A. and we're much more still on lockdown than a lot of other places. People are going to the movies. There's nothing to see. I mean, they went to see Hocus Pocus last weekend. I mean, there's nothing to see, and but people elsewhere are living different lives than people in California are living because we've taken it seriously. What can I tell you?
Now, Bruce, if folks want to keep up with your writing and appearances, whenever that does become available as well, where can folks find all the information about Bruce Vilanch?
You could go to wegotbruce.com. Which is named after a movie that was made about me 20 years ago called Get Bruce, which was produced by Harvey Weinstein, who never laid a hand on me. I mean, really, hashtag why not me?
That's awesome.
And I keep saying I'm working on the sequel, Had Bruce, with a much larger cast. but We Got Bruce, it's run by a fan in Pensacola, Florida, and he knows more about what I'm doing than I do. I'll get these emails from him saying, I hear you're doing such and such. And I say, which is news to me. But so if anybody has a morbid interest, they can go right there and they'll find out. They'll find stuff out right away.
Well, that's good stuff. And Bruce, it's truly been a privilege to visit with you. I appreciate you taking some time to be on, and hopefully we can catch up again as things loosen up a little bit.
Enjoy. Alice, Oklahoma, is that really, but not spelled like the girl?
It's Altus.
Pardon me, Altus. Yeah, I've got to get this prescription corrected. I'm telling you, these Walgreens glasses are not doing it for me. No offense, Walgreens. Keep selling me drugs.
Well, thanks again for tuning us in for this 29th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, anything else you'd like to know, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and on Facebook, all at GQwithCam. If you'd like to help out with the funding for the podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. Also, if you have any special guest ideas, send me an email, Cameron@kwhw.com. We'll see you for episode 30 coming up tomorrow.